my dear 51 minus me 50 participants who are present now at this webinar. You just heard in the anthem of the Sabha. The Sabha shows the way, committed to a better tomorrow today. The better tomorrow of today is always weighed on the strength or on the satisfaction we have our living status. We have limited resources, perhaps, or maybe some of you may have unlimited resources. But ultimately, the limited or unlimited resources need to be balanced to have a satisfying and happy life. Somebody has rightly said that balancing your money is the key to having it enough. Now, if you want to balance, it goes simultaneously with proper management. It is also said, when money realizes that it is in good hands, it wants to stay and multiply in those hands. And another author dealing with money and expertise says, money is always eager to ready to work for anyone who is ready to employ it. So my dear friends, today what are we going to learn? How we need to plan our finances and be independent. And also, today is the time of uncertainties. Few years back, nobody foresaw the pandemic that would hit us and show us the entire world is one humanity, one people, and it would affect everybody. So among all these uncertainties, whatever you have, you need to balance it and plan according to what we would like to have for a good future. So welcome to all of you for this webinar. Let me congratulate the Youth Affairs and Training Forum led by Vice President Lawrence Fernandez for taking this initiative. This initiative is specially addressed to young people, young adults, because this is the time that needs financial planning to be independent so that you earn and plan enough and retire and live a good life. So welcome to all of you for taking time off and being the participants. About Stephen, he is an expert certified financial planner. He's the editor of Dimensionally Yours magazine, member of Dimensions Global Chamber of Commerce, a non-profit making company. And he has been involved with the Bombay Catholic Sabha as a guest speaker in few other programs. So thank you very much once again and welcome to this wonderful webinar. I think by the time Stephen ends his presentation, there will be a lot of questions to him because we are all eager perhaps to understand more and more, and you will go back satisfying that you have spent your time worthily for attending this webinar. Thank you and welcome once again. Over to Lawrence.
Yeah, thank you, Advocate. Before we hand over the session to Stephen Fernandez, I would request my colleague from the Youth and Training Forum, Alexio, to formally introduce Mr. Stephen Fernandez. Over to you, Alexio.
Thank you, Lawrence. Good evening, everyone. Today we have in our midst a very well-known Mr. Steven Fernandez. On behalf of a training and youth forum, I'm happy to invite Steven Fernandez, who will be guiding us in financial independence and early retirement. Mr. Steven is a founder of Profession Financial Planner. He is certified financial planner, a writer and an editor. He has over 14 years of experience in the field of personal finance. Being the chief planner, he helps in preparing a roadmap to achieve financial goals in a time-bound manner, which includes budgeting, cash flow management, insurance and investment advisory. He has also written a case study for the CNBC published book called Financial Planning for Software Professionals. He is actively spreading financial knowledge to the youth and also has so far visited 100 colleges in Maharashtra, MP, and Goa, covering more than 27,000 students in the last 6 years, conducting sessions on how to be a smart investor and how to manage your money in association with Consumer Guidance Society of India. He is the author of CNBC published book There There is Always a Financial Solution. This book has 10 unique financial case studies. I'm sure all of us will have a powerful take-home inputs and tips on financial independence and early retirement. Thank you, Mr. Steven Fernandez, and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Alexio, for the warm welcome. Thank you, Advocate Raphael and Lawrence, for giving me an opportunity to conduct this session. Before I share the presentation, let me tell you that the name of this topic looks very interesting. In today's uncertain times, as Mr. Raphael rightly said, we need to look at ways and means how we can try and gain our financial independence. There are certain steps definitely, but it can't be done without a little bit of discipline. Okay. So those of you who would want to also go through some interesting personal finance videos can also go through my YouTube channel, Proficient Financial Planners, when you have time. So basically, we are all trapped in a rat race. There was a time when there were fixed working hours. The travel mode was very convenient in the cities. Over the last decade or so, the complete employment scene has changed. Today we live in very uncertain times. When our parents used to work, they knew that they would retire from the same company by working 15, 20 or 25 plus years from the same company. Today we are in a world where it's so fluid. You are here today in Mumbai, probably after a couple of years you would be in some other place. Changing jobs is very frequent nowadays, and especially in the metro cities, the commuting takes a lot of toll on your health, and so what we are saying is that we're looking at shortened working careers. And now when we had a pandemic last year, which is still going on, which is almost in these final stages, if we could believe the Indian health authorities, it has actually taught us that trying to gain control of our finances, probably would have kept a lot of people, in a much better financial position in the last 1.5 years. So basically, what we are doing is, we are running a rat race. Dalai Lama was interestingly, had conveyed certain things on the way we live today. He said that we sacrifice our life to earn money, and then we spend the money to gain our health later. So, and we all know once our health deteriorates, you can't bring back your health. You can't bring back what you have lost actually. So basically, it's time to sit back and try and contemplate on your move forward towards achieving financial independence. Financial independence is a concept, is a thought. It only means that you need to have adequate money for your various requirements. Okay, should not be dependent on somebody else. You should not be having liabilities which are supposed to pay to somebody. Financial independence basically means you have money for all purposes that you have lined up, or whatever you have noted down, your purposes or goals in your life. You have money for meeting those purposes. What is this concept of retiring early and independence, financial independence? This is a concept which was popularized in the year 1992 through a book called Your Money or Your Life, written by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez. So what this book actually conveyed was that we are so busy in our lives, we keep working till 55, 58 or 60 or 65, that we forget to really pursue some hobbies, some passions in our life. So how is it possible for us to retire little early than a normal age of 55, 60? And by the time you reach that age, your health doesn't permit you to do a lot of things which you could have done in your youth, or probably could have done at least a decade earlier than the normal retirement age. What this book advocated was that rather than retiring at 58, 60, 65, people could look at retiring a little earlier, could be 40 or 45, and in some cases, if you're starting a little late, maybe 50. The shortening your retirement life, shortening the usual retirement age, and trying to pursue certain things which were always close to your heart, but you couldn't do it due to work compulsions, due to you chasing your career. Now, it's not easy. The book mentions that you can do it by trying to save about 65 to 70% of your income on a yearly basis, which is not easy. Okay, and it conveyed a thumb rule stating that once you are able to accumulate 30 times of your annual expenses, for example, if your annual expense is about say 2 lakhs per annum, if you are able to accumulate 30 times of that, which is about 60 lakhs, probably you could look at taking the plunge and trying to give up your regular 9 to whatever you could call it, 9 to 10 or 9 to 9 job, and you could look at something pursuing your own hobbies or goals, pursuing your passions which are very close to your heart. And the key to sustaining this money, key to sustaining this corpus that you have created, is to withdraw a very small amount of that money for your expenses, which could be about 3 to 4% of the corpus on a yearly basis. Now, this is a concept, this is a thought. Okay, I'm going to present you certain steps which probably can help us, or some of you, or maybe many of you, who would be thinking on these lines of trying to retire early, of trying to live meaningful lives rather than live busier lives, affecting your health and not able to pursue the passions that you have very close to your heart. So financial independence basically means have enough wealth to live off without having to really go to work on a daily basis. It doesn't mean you actually give up work. There are a lot of professions where people work as consultants part-time, and I mean, they love to work They will love to follow their profession, but they would not want to work full time. So one can actually look at gaining independence, financial independence, by creating some kind of wealth which would take care of your expenses, regular expenses, and whatever uh, expenses that you have towards pursuing your hobbies. It also means that there are no more liabilities for you to pay, no loans on your head where you have to pay your EMI each month. Okay? And you are able to freely take care of your own life, and you are able to live the kind of life that you always long for. Okay? Now, is it possible? Yes, it's possible. It's not impossible. It's possible, but the path is a little difficult, and I'm going to give you a certain steps which will actually help you reach there. Now, what do you need to do to retire early to gain financial independence? It's a 6-step process. First is absolute frugality. Frugality actually means, living a very simple life, trying to cut down on your expenses, okay, which many of us would have learned in the last 1.5 years. Second step is focus on saving the maximum amount of money that you can, maximum amount of salary or income that you're earning on a regular basis, so if you're able to stick to point number 1, it's easier to follow point number 2. Point number 3, keep expenses to your minimum. Okay, there are a lot of distractions today due to advertisement media, due to a lot of social media, where people tend to spend more, okay, just to catch up with your peers. So that's the third aspect, keep expenses to your minimum. Point number 4, we have a goal to retire early, and trying to just protect your capital will not help you reach there. You need to look at investing your money aggressively in assets which can help grow your money. So start investing aggressively with a large part of the money which you have started saving. Don't take loans. I'll come to that point when we come to this point number 5. I'll describe that in detail. Don't buy property. These are the 6 mantras which will help people to retire early and gain financial independence. Probably point number 6 might make most of you think why point number 6, but I'll come to that point where I'll try to give the rationale. Frugality absolutely means that, trying to live a very simple life, cut down on expenses. As I said, that mobile phones, you have an option of buying even the most expensive mobile phones, and the finance companies are making life easier for you by highlighting that, you could take a small EMI and buy a phone. Today, companies are giving even holidays on EMI. Companies are giving most of the electronic items on EMI. So when you're paying in EMIs in small amounts, you don't realize till the time all those EMIs add up to a bigger amount, and you realize that you're not able to save any amount. So frugality is something which is the first step towards. So this helps you reduce your expenses. This helps you increase your savings. Whole focus is on saving a lot of money, starting very early, saving a lot of money. And mind you, this presentation is actually meant for those who are under the age of 35 and working, so that they have those 15 years, 10, 15, 18 years ahead of them. You can look forward to saving and investing and trying to retire early. The more you invest, the earlier would mean that the higher amount of corpus you're able to create. And I'll also speak to you about something known as compounding. Okay, the compounding formula only works when we actually invest our money for longer periods, probably 10, 15-year periods. So starting early is the key. Saving higher amount of money is the most important aspect here. Keep expenses to your minimum. Okay, so there are a lot of options of spending. Okay, so one needs to be very judicious in deciding how you need to spend your money. Okay, it's again not easy in today's world, because we have our peer groups, we have our social groups, etc. We move around with them. We try to maintain our status. So, trying to cut down on our expenses would actually mean ignoring your social status and trying to focus on your own personal life, trying to focus on your own retirement rather than looking at how they are spending, because we don't know what's happening in their own personal lives. They could be splurging, but we really don't know how much in debt those people are. Okay, so trying to cut down on their expenses, expensive coffee, clothing, okay, spending on gadgets, etc., going on a lot of foreign tours, etc., in the initial part of your journey, initial part of your earning life. Okay, so cutting down on your expenses is the third mantra. Point number 4 is start investing aggressively. We have a lot of investment options in front of us. Okay? To preserve our capital, uh, to keep our money safe, we always look forward to a bank deposit, fixed deposit. We look forward to something called a PPF account, Public Provident Fund account, which are fixed return and government-backed investments. But that will not help you really create wealth. Okay? Of course, we need to keep our money, some part of our money there for our short-term and medium-term requirements. For your emergency, of course, you need to keep money in your bank or a fixed deposit. But when we're talking about investing for a 15-year period or 10-15-year period and creating wealth, you can't create wealth with bank deposits. You can't create wealth with bonds. You need to go beyond that. You need to look at equity shares or equity mutual funds, which might appear to be riskier in the shorter term with so much volatility going on in the stock market nowadays, but they actually create wealth over the longer period of time. And we are not talking about short term right now. Most of us today have a propensity of taking loans. The tendency of taking loans have actually increased, and mostly in India, personal loans or consumer loans are increasing way beyond than home loans, and which is what is happening with many younger generation people, that credit card usage has actually gone up, has shot up. And some of you would know that if you miss your credit card payments, the monthly interest that you would have to pay on the outstanding amount could range from 3 to 4% per month, which is 36% per year. Now you don't earn so much return on any investment on a yearly basis. Okay, so whatever you will earn in a fixed deposit in 1 year, probably you'll have to keep your fixed deposit for about almost 10 years to earn the kind of interest which a credit card charges you in a year's time. Okay? So be careful when you're using a credit card. Ideally use a debit card because you would be able to control your expenses. Credit card is based on a limit, it's like spending today income which is not earned, because our next month's income will be used to pay off what you are spending today. Debit card is something which you use to pay your current expenses with your current savings or current income that you have. Okay, so be careful about whether you're using a credit card or debit card. Debit card is always preferred. Okay, many people are falling towards personal loan and consumer loans, etc. Okay, again, as I mentioned, peer pressure, societal pressure, lifestyle, etc. That can put you in debt at a very early age. So keep that in mind. Property was considered to be a very good investment till a couple of years back. But what we see is that most of our families today have their own house. There was a time when many of us didn't have our own house. Okay? So property, which that it's the life's biggest investment. Okay? 90% of properties in Mumbai, the city of Mumbai or most metro cities are taken on loans, because people are not able to save so much to buy a house. And it takes the maximum amount of your EMI, it takes the maximum amount of your investment. and most of your home loans are can range, and nowadays banks are even offering loans up to 30 years. Okay, so home loans mostly are taken for longer duration, which means that your savings capacity reduces and you keep paying your EMIs. Renting is seen as a cheaper option because today in the younger population we see that many people are shifting jobs, moving from one place to the other. Okay, so buying your house in one city and living in the other probably would make you unmanageable. Your own property, which is you have to give it on rent. There should be somebody to upkeep, take care of your house, etc. So it's not easy. You living in one city, keeping changing your destination because based on your jobs, keeping that fluid situation in mind. And most people today have their homes, have their own house because the previous generation has actually purchased house, and probably one might not really need to buy a house because it actually takes in a lot of your investment. If you look at the data which is brought out by Global Property Guide Asia, properties in metro cities in India are the highest in the world. If you only look at Asia, the house prices to GDP per capita is very high. If we compare that with China, we are 6 times more expensive or 5 times more expensive. Our properties are more expensive in the cities than the nearest closest competitor, which is China. So property prices are unrealistically higher, which is why we end up taking a huge amount of loan. Those who have high income, those who are in the high income brackets, probably for them buying a house might not really affect their cash flows, but this is for people whose incomes are not really high, and for them your home loan EMIs might really affect your savings capacity, especially when you're looking at retiring early. Okay. Who should retire early? Now, everybody aspires, that okay, I wish I wouldn't have to go to work tomorrow. But then this is a focused goal. You just can't think of retiring early and not do anything to reach there. Okay. Why should one retire early? Okay, if you really have hobbies which you want to pursue and which you're not able to do because you are working full time and work takes so much of your time that you're not able to really give time out to pursue your hobbies. People who like to travel, there are a lot of people who like to travel, see around, not only the world, but within our own country. There are a lot of places to move around. People like to travel. So if you want to pursue that hobby, again, that could be the second reason why one would like to retire early. There are many people nowadays who want to work for social causes, environmental causes, okay, and keep due to their work schedules, they're not able to do this. Retiring early, as I mentioned earlier, does not really mean that you completely stop working. You could still continue uh, your consulting work if you are in consulting work. If you have worked for some number of years and you have gained the expertise in your area, you could always start consulting work. If you like working, some people really like to have passionate about what they do, so they could still continue working part-time, not your usual routine, but they could also be able to focus on issues closer to their heart, like social causes, environmental causes, etc. There are people who are focusing more on their emotional well-being. I've seen a lot of people during the last couple of years taking up, coaching, taking up health-related uh, passion. Focusing on trying to be healthy, focusing on teaching others to be healthy. So trying to focus on their own personal emotional well-being so that they could in turn help others to live healthier lives. So retiring does not really mean that you won't earn any income. You could always continue working part-time in professions which allow people to really work part-time. Your corpus that you are investing from today, or whatever you have started and you are looking forward to reaching that corpus in the next 10-15 years, would also earn income for you. that will also grow. Okay, so it doesn't really mean that you're trying to look out for a job towards a retirement, but trying to create a corpus at the same time. Those people who are passionate about their own professions would also continue working part-time and based on their time choices. Now, planning a corpus for retirement. Okay, many people invest in various investments, various categories of investments. There are people who prefer fixed deposits because they find fixed deposits are the safest investment options. There are people who invest in properties, okay, because they would have got good amount of return because they invested in property maybe 10-15 years back, which was actually a boom period for property to go up, and they had the kind of money to invest in properties. There are people who prefer equities because they either they have understood the power of equity investing over the long term. Okay, so you have a lot of options to invest. Okay, but as I mentioned in point number 4, invest aggressively in case you're looking at creating a corpus over the next 15 years. Okay, then we need to look at a decent corpus which can actually grow at a good amount of return. Okay? So inflation, as you all know, inflation is basically expenditure rates. So today, if last year if petrol was costing say 90 rupees, today we are paying 103, 104 rupees. Okay, that's inflation. Okay, expenses for that particular commodity has gone up by some rupees, and that is some average percentage that we are talking about. Average inflation over the last 10-12 years have been about 6 to 7%. So today, if your expenditure is 25,000 a month, and let's say you are in the age group of 21, you wish to retire at 45, the monthly expenses say 25,000 a month, you would require 1,26,000 a month when you want to retire at the age 45, which means that you need to have a corpus of around 4 crores. Okay, now this is if you don't want to work and completely pursue your hobbies full time, and your money will grow for you and you will be easily able to live a retired life with this kind of corpus. Then you need to invest about 21,000 a month in equity or equity mutual fund options, which I will discuss with you those options a little later. The little later you start, the higher amount of investment you need to do. Okay, if you just delay your retirement by 4 years and assuming that your expenditure is slightly higher, okay, but you know, that many number of years. Now what we have assumed here is that when you retire at 45, you also need to live till 85, which is 40 years. Okay, so your corpus would vary depending upon when you want to retire. The corpus would vary depending upon when you are starting saving for your retirement. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, earlier you start, the better head start you get, and that much lesser amount you need to invest to reach your retirement corpus. Okay, so your investment per month could range anywhere depending upon when you start. A power of compounding, basically I want to highlight on this aspect. Power of compounding is nothing but whatever you invest, there is a return that you earn on that. And if you continue investing that money, if you don't withdraw that money, that on that money, your money earns a compounded return. Your money grows in value. So your principal is growing and your interest is also growing year on year. Whatever interest you keep earning over the years, even that keeps growing. So that's compounding. And the compounding power only comes in the later years, not in the initial years. And to reach the later years, you have to be there. You have to continue investing on a regular basis. Just to give an example, if you just start with a simple amount of 5,000 rupees a month and you continue investing for about say 15 years, okay, you would have created a corpus of about 25 lakhs. If you invest 10,000 a month and continue investing for about 20 years, you will reach somewhere around 1 crore. Okay? So depending upon what amount you have to invest and what period you're looking at investing, ideally when you're looking at creating a corpus for your retirement, your corpus will be decided by how much amount you're investing on a monthly basis. Now, a lot of questions people ask about shares, about equity, about how does one invest, what's the right way to invest. Okay? For first-time investors, people who don't understand equity markets, I would advise them first try and read up about what is a Sensex and what is Nifty. Okay, so Sensex is actually the top 30 companies in the country. It represents almost 65% of the share market value. They're so huge that they represent almost 60-65% of the overall market value. Okay, for example, if the overall value of the stock market in India is, let's say, about 20 lakh crore, I'm just giving an example, it is much more than that. 60% of that, which is about 12 lakh crore, will be just the value will be because of these 30 large companies. Okay, you also have Nifty, which is 50 stocks. Okay, 50 large companies, and you name it. I will show you a slide later, which will show you the companies which is part of these index. They are the biggest companies in the country. Great management. Most of them are run by great management teams. Good balance sheets, which means they've been there for 25, 30, 50, 80, some of them are even 100 years old, like the Tata Group. Okay, they have own goodwill in the market. Their companies have a good amount of market share. They virtually have monopolies in the product that they sell in the market. Just to give an example, Asian Paints or Pidilite or Nestle, they have certain products which are market leaders, which are having a huge market share, have the lion's share in the market. I'm not recommending this stock, but just to give an example, I have mentioned these names. Warren Buffett, you've all heard about this name. He is one of the world's well-known investor, and he is a self-made billionaire. He always advocates buying good companies, buying very stable companies, large companies, because even if you buy them at a slightly higher value, they will still help you earn a good amount of return. But if you invest in companies which are not very well known, in companies whose businesses you not understand, in companies where they are not making you profit, but just because somebody has told you to buy that company, you're buying them. So those companies might still not make a great amount of money for you, even if you buy them at a lower price. Okay, so you have to stick to quality, especially in the share market. And most of these companies will only create wealth if you buy the right companies and you hold them for a good amount of time. Just to represent the Sensex, these are some of the Sensex companies which you can see. The percentage that you can see is the value within Sensex for that company. For example, HDFC Bank is almost 11% value in the entire Sensex basket. Okay, HDFC Limited, which is the home loan company, is about 8%. Okay? Reliance is about 15%. And Nifty again includes most of these companies, but it has 20 more companies. When you look at some of these names, you will see these are all the top companies of the country, and most of them are like 25, 30, 50. Some of them are like even 100 years old. Just to give you an example of some of the top wealth creators in the last 25 years, and you'll find most of the popular well-known names are there in the wealth creator list. Okay, a 25-year return is ranging between 21 to 30% for most of these companies. Many of them are like very, very well known, been there for like 40, 50 years. Mind you, 30% return over 10 years does not mean, over 25 years does not mean that every year it has been a straight return. Some years they gave return, some years they did not. But future years they made up for those years where they did not perform. In terms of value, if you would have invested 1 lakh of rupees in these companies, in terms of value, probably the minimum value that would have grown would be about 2 crore about in 25 years time. Maximum value that would have grown would be 16 crores, over a 25-year period, 1 lakh becoming that kind of an amount. I know it's not easy to stick around for that long, but this is the kind of return which has come in the past. Future, probably the leaders would be different, the companies would be different, but the fundamental law or the fundamental rule does not change, which is buying companies which are having good market share, good managements, very low on debt, and have been there for many years and have monopolistic businesses. Just to show you the journey of the Sensex, which started in 1979 at 100 points. Over the last almost like 30 years, we have seen that there were so many difficult periods which our country went through. There were bomb blasts, there were different scams that took place in the stock market over the years. There was political uncertainty. COVID hit us in 2020. In spite of all those things happening, the Sensex or the stock market has actually moved up. It went down for some time, but for those who have actually remained invested, it has only gone up, which means those who stayed for a longer period of time have actually benefited from remaining invested. I'll give you one more statistics. This statistics actually indicates the longer you stay, the lesser chance that you lose money in the stock market. Or rather, if we just look at one index, which is your BSE Sensex. If you would have invested in BSE Sensex for just 1 year period, holding your, keeping your investment period of just 1 year, out of 41 occasions, okay, there will be 13 occasions, 13, which means almost 40% of the time you could have made a negative return, 40%, okay, which means 4 out of 10. Had you invested for a 3-year period, 7 out of 39 occasions, which means almost 20%, so your ratio is decreasing now. 7 out of 39 occasions you would have lost money over a 3-year investment time horizon. Had you invested your money for a 5-year period, then only on 2 occasions out of 37 occasions you would have lost money. And as you go ahead, in a 10-year period, there was only 1 occasion in the year 2002 when investors lost money over a 10-year period, only 1 occasion. Over a 15-year period, 20-year period, there is no data indicating investor loss was sticking around for 10, 15 or 20 years, which means that when we are looking at retiring early and when looking at investing for a 15 or a 20-year time horizon, equities actually give you the comfort that the volatility will be there in the short term, but over the long period of time, the markets take care of it and the returns are good enough for you to take care of the volatility which comes in the short term. There are people who try to look at the markets every day. There are people who try to do trading, believing that they are good at it and they would be able to create a good amount of wealth. It's not easy. Okay, I have not, I have not found too many people really being able to do it day in and day out. That is timing the markets. Believing that the markets are going to fall tomorrow or next week or next month, the markets are going to rise again. Speculating rather would be the right word. It's not easy and it's not possible. There are big investment gurus like Peter Lynch, etc., who have actually said that it's a futile activity. Timing the stock market is a futile activity. Have a proper discipline in place and invest for the long term in the right stocks or the right mutual funds. That is the right way to create wealth, not timing the market. And many people have actually lost returns by waiting on the sidelines, thinking that we'll enter now, we'll enter later, okay, or exiting and remaining there planning to enter later. Okay, so it's a futile activity. The second option for you to generate better returns over the long period could be mutual funds. And mutual funds are typically pooled investment where investors actually put in the money in whatever denominations. It could be 1,000, some could be invested 5,000, a lakh, or somebody more than that. Money is pooled together by the fund, by the mutual fund company, and invested as per the objective. Okay, this money is invested. If it's equity fund, that money is invested in shares, and whatever returns that come in, typically that is given to the investors. Okay? So mutual funds are little less riskier than stocks, because in shares you have to do all the hard work. You have to do searching, which stock probably is good for you to buy, hold for the long term. You have to read up a lot. In mutual funds, that risk is that work is taken up by the fund manager, by the research team of the mutual funds. So they will select the shares and the stocks where they're going to invest. So mutual funds are a little lesser riskier than stocks because of the diversification that they provide. Okay. Again, over a long-term horizon, most mutual funds have actually given good returns. Okay. 10 rupee values of many mutual funds, when the mutual funds start for the first time, they give it at 10 rupees. And most of them have actually grown in value over the last couple of years. Okay, so typically the summary is basically retiring early is possible, provided you cut down on your expenses, keep a very high savings rate, and because of that high savings rate, you're able to have a good amount of surplus and use that surplus to invest in aggressive assets like equity or mutual funds. Okay, avoid putting a lot of money in real estate or buying real estate. Purchase term insurance for your insurance cover. Don't look at insurance as investment. Focus on term insurance for ensuring your own life and your liabilities if you have, and also buy a good health cover. Create an emergency fund which can absorb shocks like the one which happened last year. Could be health related shocks, could be some emergencies where you need money immediately. So you need to have a separate emergency fund which is not invested in stocks, but which can be kept in a fixed deposit or a bank, so you can withdraw it at a very short notice. And monitor your investments regularly, because times are changing fast. You need to regularly monitor how your investments are doing, what's happening in the overall global market, just to keep updated about your investments and the status of the same. So these were some of the ideas which I thought I will share with you. So if you have any questions, I would like to take up.
Thank you, Stephen.
Can I stop sharing the screen?
Yeah, please, you can. Okay, thank you, Stephen. And I now invite my colleague Ryan Pinto to do the moderation on the Q&A. Requesting participants, if possible, you can key in your questions in the chat box, or alternatively, you can let Ryan moderate it. You can unmute and probably ask the question directly to Stephen. Yeah, over to Ryan.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello. Hi.
Yes.
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. I had a question about investing. So my age right now is 32, and I have some corpus readily available with me. So the thing is, I have sold a property of mine, and I have some amount available. So I have already started investing in the stock market, where I've bought some blue chip funds, and I'm managing those. But I'm really confused about how do I go about the balance amount. Should I just go on with a mutual fund, or how do I go about it? I mean, I'm very confused. I'm not interested in buying a property. I would rather live on rent than buying a new property. So would that be beneficial for me in the long run?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things we need to take care of. One is that you need to keep adequate funds for your emergency, which means
Correct.
if you are having a family to manage, look at a contingency fund of at least a 6 month kind of a thing where your monthly expense into 6 months.
Correct.
If you are single earning, if there's only single income, then at least a 1 year of contingency needs to be kept separately.
Correct.
One. Point number two is have a good health cover and a good term insurance so that if something happens, your family can get that kind of money for their expenses.
Yeah.
Point number three is if you don't have any short-term goals, for example, if you don't have any goals where you need money in the next 5 to 6 years, okay,
Mhm.
then probably equity mutual funds, probably or blue chip stocks can actually work in your favor. Ideally, if you don't have much knowledge of stocks, mutual funds can work well for you.
Yeah. So
Especially,
actually, I have invested in a mutual fund. I have started an NPS account for my retirement. I also have a term cover, a health insurance.
okay,
All of those things are taken care of.
good.
But I am just wondering, should I buy a property or should I just go on rent? Because I'm the only person who I need to take care of right now.
Okay.
And I don't have any short-term goals per se. But as this, the webinar mentioned early retirement, I am planning to retire by the age of 45 to 47 and do something that I like.
Excellent. Which means that I'll reiterate what I showed earlier, that then don't buy a property.
Yeah.
Look at growing your corpus, okay?
Mhm,
Because
correct.
you have about 13 years in front of you, okay?
Yeah.
And 13 years is an excellent time period for you to actually generate better returns in equity.
All right.
You
Okay.
actually have a very good time horizon. So actually equity will work well for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Hello, Steven, sir. Ryan
Yes.
here.
Yeah, right.
There is a question which is there. How much percent of monthly salary must one save for emergencies?
Okay, it's not a question of how much percentage of monthly salary for emergency saving. It's a question of how many times of your monthly expense. For example, if my monthly expense is say 50,000, and if I'm the sole earning member, I should minimum have a 6 month, 50,000 into 6, so 3 lakh rupees at least kept for emergency. If I have senior citizen parents at home who don't have a health cover and they are having health issues which will not be covered by Mediclaim, then probably the amount which needs to be kept separately will be larger. Okay? So one can follow that.
Steven, sir, another question I would like to ask.
Sure.
Now, when we invest, we are told to invest and invest aggressively. We are seeing new forms of investments like cryptocurrencies, currency derivatives. So, how do you see this going to be in the future?
Okay. So yes, cryptocurrencies have actually the values have gone up in the last couple of years. In fact, the number of investors investing also have gone up. But we need to keep in mind, invest wherever you invest. We need to see, in case your investment goes wrong, in case the company where you're investing, they create some kind of a problem with you in terms of you getting your money back. Where is the recourse for you? Whom are you going to go to, with those issues? If there is something wrong with the stock market, if a broker is not, uh, crediting your shares in your account, you could go to SEBI. Mutual funds, if the companies are not doing the right things, I'm talking about under activities which are not suitable for which they need to do, you could always go to SEBI. If a bank is not paying you, you could always go to RBI. If a crypto exchange is not going to pay you, whom are you going to go to? Okay, so you need to always look at who the regulator of that investment is, and if there is a problem, whom can you go to with those who's going to give recourse to your problems. Cryptocurrency so far is not accepted officially in India. I would not I don't advise my clients at least to invest in cryptocurrency, though there is a lot of attraction towards investing there, but I would not invest there so far till the time the government officially accepts that and tries to bring out a regulator which can manage that. Okay, derivatives is a separate thing altogether. Derivatives again is something similar to speculation. So derivatives is again which I don't advise people to invest in. It's a
Thank
high
you,
risk,
sir.
high return. Yeah.
Hello, yeah, I had one more question. I just thought about it.
Sure.
So you mentioned about mutual funds, right?
Yeah.
So would mutual funds be a good option looking at the market because they would invest at the market what the current situation is, or would an SIP be a better go for it?
Yeah. So what you actually can do is once you decide which equity funds you want to invest,
Mm-hmm.
let us say you want to invest in 3 equity funds, for example.
Okay.
Looking at the current levels, you could actually put that lump sum amount into the liquid fund of that same scheme. For example, if you want to invest in ABC equity fund,
Okay.
so ABC will also have a liquid fund.
Hmm.
So you put your money, lump sum money in the ABC liquid fund and do something called a systematic transfer. Like
All right. Okay,
SIP,
got it.
they have an
Ah.
STP and do it for next 18 months because I think over the next 18 months probably things will be more evened out.
Yeah.
Evened out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It will
Yeah.
reduce your risk. Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, as the market is correcting, I think the Nifty was at a it was touching new highs. So right now the market is correcting. So is it the right time for me to start a new mutual fund, or should I just wait it out or
See,
see what the market is doing even further?
if you want to put a lump sum, then this might not be a good time to put a lump sum amount. But if
Okay.
you want to do a STP from a liquid fund to a equity fund, STP, then
Okay.
this is not a bad time because your installments are going to go. No? You're not going to put a lump sum in equity. So it's not going to,
Correct. Correct.
you don't need to worry about that.
All right. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So another question on the chat box.
Yeah.
The question is, one second, sir. Is gold a good form of investment in long term?
So gold, there are two things. One is gold has always tried to give returns equal to inflation. So I don't have a chart readily available, but if I could have, I would have shown you that over a 30-year period, the returns in gold have been about 9%, 9.5%, versus a Sensex return which could be in the excess of about 16.5 to 18%. Secondly, the taxation in gold is again we need to see. Gold in the long term is treated. You have to pay 20% tax after indexation. So if you're looking at diversifying your money, probably gold can be one of the allocation you can have, but not a allocation more than 5% to 8% of your money. So if you want to invest say 100 rupees, probably 5 rupees or 8 rupees you could put in gold for the long term, and rest you could spread out into a debt and equity depending upon your requirements.
So as we just have now, this is for the awareness that you're creating. I would really appreciate. I really appreciate the work that you're doing. Having the mindset that most of us in our community have, where we always try to be a little conservative with the investments, like something in property, something in gold, etc. And then we work for it till the lifetime for
Right.
to repay back, and then we don't live our lives.
Right.
Now there are all youngsters over here. Can you give a tip, or you can say an advice or something which might change their mind? And we have someone like Rakesh Junjunwala, or the big biggies who are there in the stock market. So we can have some people in the future from our community. So what mindset we need to have, and how we should be seeing at things?
Ryan, I think I will not completely agree with you when you say that most of our people in the community have a conservative mindset. I have been seeing a lot of our youngsters, especially between 25 to 35 category, have actually started their journey in equity. Have actually started investing. Not
That's
now because the market has gone up in the last 1 year, but they've started their journey a couple of years back. So today's generation, I'm very happy to say that they are willing to take that risk because they're looking at a higher return in the long term. A couple of things that they need to look at is ignore what has happened in the last 1 year. See, last 1 year returns, a thing like this happens once in 10 years. Okay, a previous period when the returns were so high is actually 2009. Okay, when the markets have actually tanked by 50%, and there was a huge rally which took the market really to very high levels over the next 1.5 years. Okay, previous to that was 1999 2000. Okay, so this rally that we saw in the last 1 year, one-sided rally, after falling, it has actually only been going up, and it has really gone up. This happens once in 10 years, once in 9 or once in 10 years. So don't expect this thing to keep going up every month. Okay, so be cautious. You will actually make good return over the next 10 years, 50 years, because India is actually poised to really grow faster than most other economies, because we have emerged stronger, and we have we have a strength in a lot of sectors which we actually help us, like pharma. We have a lot of strength, inherent strength in pharma, IT sector, capital goods, etc. Okay, plus we have a young generation. Almost 65% of our population is young, which means there will be a lot of people coming in the workforce, a lesser amount of money to be spent on healthcare, etc., like unlike European nations or other countries. Okay, so don't bet against India in the next 10-15 years. The stock markets probably will go to much higher levels, but don't just keep putting money in the stock market at the current level just because you feel that the market will keep going up at this level every year. No. Okay, so be ready for some corrections that will happen, but don't try to take risky calls like putting all your money in shares or equity. Spread your money as per your requirement, and anything that you want beyond 5 to 7 years, equity actually is a good option for you. And actually I have seen a lot of, in fact I know a couple of Christian or Catholic people who are closer to their 60s or 70s, who actually are living up from their dividend income from their shares. So they have been investing in shares about 25, 30, 40 years, and they have made that kind of money, and today they're living out of the dividend income just that comes from their shares and mutual funds. Okay, so as I told you that I know a lot of people within our community who have actually started doing that, and I'm happy that the younger generation is taking interest in this category of asset. But don't go overboard. Please be very careful at the current levels at least, and be cautious while you're investing.
Yes, so if as I've understood you, two quick points that we can take. First is India has a great growth story now in the future. Secondly, be consistent in our, regardless of the results, the ups and downs in the economy.
Absolutely.
Be consistent in whatever we are doing, like the investments that we are having, because as you very rightly said, we have a very bad tendency that when the market starts falling, people start pulling out money instead of waiting. So such tips will, I think, help a lot of our youngsters. Just we'll take some more questions.
Sure.
Anyone has got more questions to for Steven, sir? You all can put it in the chat box. I'll just check the chat box, Steven, sir.
Sure.
Some people are asking for the mobile number. Steven, sir, can we have your mobile number?
Yeah, I'll share it on the chat. Yeah.
Yes, Steven, sir is sharing the mobile number. Another question is how to check which company share are undervalued.
Okay.
So just before you answer that, Steven, sir, so Steven, sir has given his number on the chat box. So please take down his number, for you all can WhatsApp him or message him. And secondly, so the question is how to check which company share are undervalued.
See, there is something known as fundamental analysis, and there is something known as technical analysis. So when you talk about undervalued, we are talking about fundamental analysis, and fundamental analysis involves finding out what is the book value of the share, finding out what is the price to earning of the share, debt to equity ratio. There are a lot of categories, there are a lot of parameters that one needs to look at before you realize that whether the share is undervalued or overvalued. Okay, so it's not easy, but it's a science. It's a proper mathematical working that one needs to do, and it comes with experience. So probably you could read up a couple of books, on fundamental investing, where you can read about how one can actually find out uh, how to find out how shares are undervalued. It's not an easy question to answer. It's an art that one can develop over a period of years, not even a month or a couple of months, but it'll take a couple of years to actually master that art of looking at how to buy undervalued companies. Uh, I'll give you a slightly. So this is what your answer was to your question, but I would like to slightly give you a different perspective towards this. In today's market, it's very difficult to find undervalued companies because most of the companies' values have gone up. Rarely do you get companies which are undervalued today, especially the ones which are good. I'm not talking about the ones which are like, languishing and which are outside the top 200 or 300 companies. I'm talking about the top 100 companies. Very difficult to find out what is undervalued. Okay, but keep a few things in mind before you want to buy shares. I gave you a couple of names in the previous slide. Focus on companies whose businesses are only growing each year. For example, some of the IT companies, especially who are in the cloud computing world, etc., their business is only going to go up, servers, etc. Second, look at the paint industry. There are a couple of players which are actually having a huge market share. Considering the fact that we are such a huge nation, we have huge requirement of housing, etc. The kind of sales that will happen there. Look at consumer things which people buy on a daily basis, which are the companies which are actually manufacturing and have a big market share. So when you try and shift your perspective, trying to find out what is undervalued and trying to find out rather which company will actually grow over the next 5 years, which companies are actually opening more branches, which companies are actually hiring more people, which companies are actually making more profit than the previous year against competitors, probably your perspective will change and you will start looking at those companies. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Stephen sir. Any more questions? Stephen sir, thanks for summarizing for us all the questions very nicely. Just another question I got on the chat.
Yeah.
Two questions actually. As a 30-year-old nearing the end of a property loan, should I continue to hold the property or earn rent and appreciation? What is the best way to invest the corpus for a 15-year period?
See, over a 15-year period, see, I'm not telling you that you sell your property and start investing somewhere else. I'm saying that if you are getting into a new property, then that is something which you can avoid, but not that you sell your property and move to rent now. That is something which I don't know your overall financial situation, so I will not comment directly right now. But this is basically an advice to people who actually are looking at buying a property now, okay, as an investment. You should avoid doing that. But if you already have a property and that's the only one property you have, probably you could hold on. And when you're almost towards the end of your loan, whatever EMI that you were putting towards the house, focus completely into your SIPs towards equities, so that the next 15 years goes into creating that corpus for you.
Yes.
I think there's a
Another
second
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you recommend sources to learn further about equity?
Yeah, so I could give you a couple of websites to learn about mutual funds. If you want to learn, you could visit valueresearchonline.com. I'll just type it out for you. Could also look at Money Control. There is also a good blog which I will suggest you to read. And if there's a book I will advise all of you to read, which is known as The Psychology of Money. please read this book. This will give you a different perspective about money, and I think everybody should read this book.
Yes, I hope everybody has taken down the websites and the book which Steven sir has advised. Yes, Lawrence sir?
You're on mute, I think, Lawrence.
Thank you, Stephen.
Welcome.
Wonderful insights. I think all the 75 plus participants who have been there have gained value, and very good moderation, Ryan. Thank you for all the questions that you were able to bring in. And before we go to the vote of thanks, a formal vote of thanks, I would request my colleague Adrian Rosario to make some announcements regarding the academic scholarship. Over to Adrian.
Thank you, Lawrence. This is a quick announcement. This forum is also responsible for organizing the academic awards of the Bombay Catholic Sabha. And we have actually these awards, which include cash prize as well as a certificate from the Bombay Catholic Sabha. We have scheduled two such, thanks to COVID, we have a little backlog. So the academic year 2019-20, all those who graduated in 2019-20 academic year, as well as post-graduation. So the scholarships range from class 10 right up to PhD, including those who have cleared the MPSC and UPSC. So a whole lot of professional courses, engineering, degree courses. You just have to apply very simply. It's going to be available on a number of links starting tonight. The deadline, of course, is, so therefore I said there are two academic years, 1920 and 2021. So if some of you may have graduated in the last 2 years, what you need to keep ready is your mark sheet copies and of course your form that is in a link that will be circulated in a number of groups. All the best. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian. Now over to my colleague Rita Almeida to give us the formal vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. A warm and cherished evening.
Rita, you are voice. You can keep your video off. Rita? Rita?
Today we had the opportunity to hear your Adrian Rosario, Alexio, Kevin, Norbert, David Varun, Ryan Pinto. Thanks to the POB of the Sabha and the unit for promoting the program. Special thanks, my dear friends, for being with us this evening. Once again, I would like to say thank you, and we are most grateful to the speaker, Mr. Steven Fernandes, on this forum. We thank you for being with us this evening. This is a great pleasure. Thank you very much. Good night.
Okay, so what we probably missed from Rita, friends, is that it's a thank you for all of us who are present here. I would again like to acknowledge the fact that we also have our Vice President Bento Lobo with us. We have our President Advocate. We have you all such wonderful people here. My colleagues from the Youth and Training Forum. Thank you all for making this successful. and I look forward to your seeing you very often on all our webinars. Thankfully, we do at least one such webinar every month, and thank you for joining. Yeah,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
thank you, Stephen.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you so for
Thank
having
you.
me. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen.